The Danish Deception, part 16. Okay, let me recap a little bit for you guys. So it is now April of 2024. I found out about his gambling addiction in February of 2024. So we've had a very, very solid good 2 months. I feel like he's being honest. I have a feeling he's ready to propose because I knew he had the ring, but he knew I wasn't ready to accept that proposal from him, even though we were already married, but it still was like symbolic to me. So I wanted us to be in a good place. So I had a feeling he wanted to propose in Colombia. And so I set up a meeting for us to make amends with Crypto and Crypto's wife. So we go to their home, we walk in, I'm already feeling so emotional. And we sit down and we just, at first we're just sitting, talking, catching up. And then finally, and you can tell it's like the elephant in the room for like the first 30 minutes that we're there. And then finally, I was the first one that spoke. I was just like, I just want to speak on behalf of myself and say that you guys are just two amazing human beings, and the empathy that you showed us, even when it wasn't deserved, will never go unnoticed. And I just, from the bottom of my heart, I just want to say I'm sorry for not being more vigilant and realizing the situation that we were in. And then my ex began to talk, and he basically just said, I know that I did these things, but it almost was like I was a different person. Like it felt like I wasn't in control of myself and my actions. And it was just, he was just speaking from the heart and just saying like this addiction took over me and I almost didn't know right from wrong. And Crypto and Crypto's wife both took turns talking, and they were just so understanding. And, they communicated, we understand this is a disease and we still care about you both, and we still want to have both of you in our lives. And it just felt like it was a great conversation, and I felt like we can move forward from here. We're going to set up a payment plan and everything's going to be okay. And so the next day we go to Cartagena, Colombia, have a spectacular time. And I was kind of expecting the proposal throughout the trip, and I didn't know when it was gonna come. And then there was a night that we went to dinner, and then we went out for a drink, and then we came back home. And the hotel we were staying at had a rooftop that was like overlooking the city. And so we went up there with a bottle of wine, and we're just drinking wine and just talking. And I, at that moment, just felt so grateful for him and for his sobriety and for his honesty. And before I know it, I look down and he's down on one knee and he tells me, I know this isn't your dream proposal, and I know I've let you down a lot, but I will make it up to you, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be the man that you deserve. And at this point, I'm just hysterically crying, and I'm so happy. And it really did feel like the happiest moment of my life, and the yes was so easy. There was not a doubt in my mind. It kind of felt like it did whenever we got married. There was no hesitation, but it felt much more deeper this time around, because now I know about his flaws and I know about his struggles, and I know he's not this, perfect individual, which nobody's perfect. We're just imperfect people that come together and try to have a relationship. So after Cartagena, we come back and, we're just trying to enjoy ourselves, enjoy being engaged, sharing it with our family and friends, because at this point we can actually tell our friends and family like we're spending forever together. So we are so just happy to be able to take it all in. And Easter comes around, and I remember I was making a roast, and I had one of my friends was over and my little sister, and I'm making a roast and we're eating on Easter Sunday after we went to church. And my ex gets a message from his mom, and she's like, I need you to call me right now. And she never does that. So obviously we're freaking out, and I'm like, what's going on? He goes upstairs, and he's gone for maybe like a couple minutes, and I can hear him talking in Danish. And then he comes downstairs, and I'm like, what's happening? He was like, well, my dad's back in the hospital because he was going to therapy and like fell and broke his hip, and he went to go get a hip replacement surgery. And after the surgery, like he was like, recovering fine, and then out of nowhere his heart stopped, and they had to resuscitate him, and he's fine now, but his mom just wanted us to know. And so I'm like freaking out, and we didn't really know what was going to happen when we went to bed that night. So we wake up the next morning, we get the news that he's doing just fine, and I just remember feeling so relieved because we didn't know what we were gonna wake up to. To this day, I don't know why his heart stopped, but regardless, we're just happy he was doing good. So over the course of a month, his dad's health is, he's still doing good. Me and my ex are doing really, really good. We just got engaged to the world. Finances are getting better. He's being honest with me. He's still going to GA meetings, and I feel like things are getting better. And so we traveled to Panama for my 30th birthday, and we were with my sister and some of my friends and my ex, and he was actually the only guy on this trip, which was 100% unintentional. And we're on our way to Panama, and while we're in the air, obviously my phone's on airplane mode, and we land, and I take the airplane mode off, and I look at my phone, and I have all these calls from his sister and his sister's boyfriend. And so I'm a little bit confused. I open up the messages and I see that she's saying, "You need to call me immediately." Immediately I was like, oh, something bad's happened. And so I look at my ex, I show him the messages, and obviously he has similar messages as well on his phone when he turns it on. And so he was like, "There's nothing we can do. We're sitting on a plane. Let's just get off the plane and then I'll call her." So we get off the plane and we just kind of step aside. He calls her and he's like, okay. And he's talking in Danish, so I don't really understand what's going on. And then he gets off the phone. I was like, "What happened?" He was like, "Oh, his heart stopped and they weren't able to resuscitate him." And I was like, what? And I was like, "Your dad died?" And it was the most uncomfortable position for me because he did not show any emotion at all. And I was like, "Are you okay?" And I just remember just holding his hand. I was like, "What can we do? What can I do for you?" He's like, "Honestly, let's just go through customs and let's get to the hotel and then we'll figure it out there." And it was the most bizarre situation ever because it's his dad's death did not faze him at all. And I am someone that's very, very close to my dad. And so I put myself in his shoes, and I'm like, I'd be wailing on the floor, screaming at the top of my lungs. And so, I know everyone deals with grief differently. I just wanted to support him in any way I could. So we go to the hotel and his mom calls him and we're on FaceTime and she's just bawling her eyes out. And I saw one tear come from his eye. And that's when I realized it felt like he was more sad that his mom was sad than he was and that his dad died. Again, this is me just making assumptions. I don't know for a fact that was what he was feeling, but I did feel a little bit strange. And at this point, I'm looking at flights to go back to Dallas so that we can get on a plane to go to Aalborg, Denmark to be there for his family. And so I'm looking at flights, and he's talking to his mom on the phone. He gets off the phone and he was like, "We're actually gonna stay." I go, "We're gonna stay?" He's like, "It's your 30th birthday. I just talked to my mom. She does not want us to leave. The funeral's not gonna be for a week, so we're just gonna enjoy our time here, and then we're gonna go back home." And I'm like, this is so weird. How am I supposed to celebrate my birthday when my father-in-law just passed away? It just felt so wrong. And I just remember we tried our best to have a good time on the trip, but it was just we were sad every day. And there was one night that my ex got really bad food poisoning. We had to get a doctor into the room to give him an IV. It just felt like everything was going wrong. And so I am not gonna lie, I need to go back to Panama and experience it again because that trip was not it. And I wanted to make something very clear. He paid for everything for that trip to Panama. So flight, hotel, and all the meals for everyone, including me and the girls that were on the trip. So we go back to Dallas for one day, and then we head to Denmark, and it was so nice being there for his family. It was so emotional, and seeing his mom cry and just be so sad, it broke my heart. Again, I'm not sensing a whole lot of emotion from my ex, but like I said before, everyone processes their grief in different ways. But we go to the funeral, and I remember I'm sitting in the front row holding my ex's hands, and I look up at him and I see he's starting to cry at the funeral, and that's the first time I've seen him cry. And so I was like, okay, there's emotion there. I don't know where the emotions coming from. Is it coming from losing his dad, resentment, from regrets? I really don't know, but I definitely could sense there was emotion there. And so after the funeral, the next couple of days, I just spent a lot of time with his family, and I spent a lot of time with his older sister because she was around, because the mom wanted all of her kids and grandkids to be around her. Obviously, she just lost her husband of 50 years. And so I started spending a lot more time with the older sister, and I'm not picking up on a whole lot of bad vibes. Like, I thought she was super nice. I thought her kids were so cute, and I love babies. I love little kids. So I really started to bond with her kids. And so it was a good trip. Obviously, there was definitely some tension, but regardless, I think everyone got along, and, you know, we were able to just support each other while they all grieved, like, losing their father and, you know, slash husband. So after being in Denmark for about a week, I had to go back to Dallas because I had some listings that needed to go live and I had to work. And so I'm back home in Dallas for maybe like a couple days, and I get an email from immigration saying that I have a notification, and I will continue the rest in part 17.